Well, hello everyone. Today we're going to do a full walk around on the Raptor, but first we're going to do a little test ride to the location where I like to do my walk arounds. Unfortunately, the last time I rode it, it was kind of spitting and sputtering a little bit, so I don't know if the valves could maybe be coming out of adjustment or if there's some old fuel or something in there. So I put some fresh gas in there, and I think we're going to do a few miles on the road today with the new Restoquad Light Kit. And I guess hopefully it runs well. If it doesn't, we'll be bringing it down to Illinois Powersports for a refresh before our dune trip to Little Sahara, Oklahoma, October 12th through the 14th. So, a few things happening in today's video, but we're just getting to where I'm going to unload. We'll get this thing ready to go. So here we go. Okay, so I've got the street legal kit on here, and one thing to make it comply with my county is it has to have a mirror. I got this hilarious Velcro strap mirror that was originally shown to me by one of the OG quad bloggers. His name was Motoposh out of South Dakota. I really wish he still made content because I was originally inspired by him to do this, but that mirror, that'll be on there. Getting on the road, and we're going to turn on the blinker. Got the 360 camera for the cruise up, maybe get some cool footage. So we should be good to go. There, it sputtered there. It's sputtering a little bit. Gotta really listen to the motor today. Going over the bridge. They recently just redid this road, so it is super nice. Just some kind of old gas, but I'm not sure, man. All right, now we get to downshift with this pole. Blinker on. Aha! I'm already making it hard enough having this go pole. It, but so far a little better, less symptoms. Temps down to 160, got some good airflow there. Oh, I've been driving with my blinker on. All right, let's dive into this thing. Okay, we are out in the sticks. I've got the Raptor. We're going to do a full walk around, but before we do that, I do want to let you know that a handful of these parts are for sale on our website, petehager.com, as well as merch. We're actually going to be adding the Restoquad headlights to our site soon, so if you guys are in the market for some of the Restoquad parts that I just recently put on, we will be selling them, and your support would mean a ton if you guys decide to grab some through us. So we're going to start with a full overview of this thing, probably start with the motor and go from there. All right, as many of you know, this is a 2019 Raptor 700 Special Edition. So diving into the heart of this beast, I want to say I had about 125 hours on it, maybe pushing 150 hours originally when the stock motor eventually failed, the crank went out on it. I have seen some talk online that some of the newer Raptor 700s have had crank bearing failures. This motor was rebuilt by a reputable shop called Illinois Powersports, and as many of you know, I've done a lot of work with that shop. They fully dyno tuned this machine and my YFC. We've done multiple exhaust swaps on it over the last couple seasons. The owner of the shop and master builder, I would say, Jay Johns, this is essentially his build, and it says so right here with this cool engine sticker. So enough chatter. This has essentially a fully built top end. It's got a stock bottom end. Within that top end build, it has a Vertex 10-to-1 piston. It has a stage 3 hot cam. It has +2 valves. The throttle body's been bored. He also port and polished the head on it. And aside from that, it has a 9-plate clutch setup, which utilizes the stock fibers. I want to say he does a little trickery in there to add the extra fibers, but the clutch is super grabby on this. It engages well, puts the power down. So that's pretty much everything that's done inside the motor. Has a Rossier R5 full exhaust system with the anti-reversion header on it. Here's the header. I want to say that there has been an update to this exhaust since this one has been put on here. It's got the Patriot themed graphic on it, carbon fiber tip, which looks awesome. And then this has an FCI intake with the box and a Power Commander 5 underneath the towel there to help everything run smoothly. And like I said, Jay did a full dyno tune. He will work through every aspect of your rev range and make sure the machine is running super happy. He loves to do nice linear power curves with these Raptors, which is one of my favorite things about the Raptor, is how you just have instant torque at any point in the power range. And it does put out about 60 horsepower. I forget the torque specs right now, but it does pack a punch. It's a very balanced power plant. It helps offset some of that power loss that you get from running in the sand, but on the dirt, honestly, at 60 horsepower, it kind of just blows the tires off all the time, and it's a bit overkill. So if I was to do this again, since I primarily dirt ride, and it's not a dune princess, I will say that doing the big 3 to the Raptor is really, in my opinion, all that you should really do to it. That may seem kind of crazy to some of you, but in most cases, you'll be around 50 or the low 50s for horsepower with a big 3 kit, and in my opinion, in the vast majority of dirt riding cases, you do not need any more horsepower than that on the trail. So maybe save yourself a few dollars in performance and spend it on something else like the suspension. I reached out to the legendary Rocket Ron Racing. He himself is an old pro XC racer, so since I primarily trail ride, or at least kind of adventure ride, I would classify it as, he was a perfect candidate to help dial my shocks in for this machine. We have YFCR takeoffs from a newer YFCR model. I'm not sure exactly the model year. He went with a triple rate setup. It is ultra plush, has a bottom end resistance when I want it. I can actually kind of take this thing out and pound it pretty hard now. I've actually have not experienced a full bottom out on the front end yet. I'm beyond impressed with how his shocks perform. You know, I went this route as a more budget-friendly option instead of going full aftermarket. I have not owned a machine with, you know, top-shelf aftermarket shocks on it. I do want to do that upgrade someday, but I figured I should experience maybe the lower cost option first to see if it's actually worth the money to spend top dollar on a nice shock like a PEP, Elka, Motowaz, Fox Shocks, whichever brand you want to go with. As far as A-arms go, I decided to go with Hauser. These are the plus 2.25 Hauser MX arms. Obviously, the Raptor is a bit top heavy from the factory. I want to say they're around 46 inches wide, and with this setup, it's a little over 49 inches. The long travel setup also did reduce the ride height in the front end a little bit, but I've had no issues with clearance or anything, but it does sit quite a bit lower. The Hauser arms themselves are a bit beefier than stock. They're a very reputable company. They've been in the industry a long time, and these are the slide cast arms, which allow you to loosen this top nut, and you can actually pop this ball joint out and swivel it inside this little mechanism, which can be adjusted for better straight line performance or better handling. But very impressed with this product. I have a full video installing the front end kit on this, which I had never done before, so it was a good learning experience for me. It was a very fun project, and it was one of the last pieces of the puzzle to really help this Raptor ride as good as it can, and that is 100% true. It does completely transform this machine, and with how wide trails are nowadays, I really think Yamaha should produce a 50-inch or 49-inch wide Raptor from the factory, since the vast majority of owners would greatly benefit from the added handling and stability that you get with this improved style front end. The last thing that was added here with the front end was a streamlined brake kit. I want to say it's a +2 line. You can get different color cables and stuff if you want, and bleeding the brakes and all that was actually easier than I expected. It went pretty smooth. I've seen people say you can run the stock lines. I didn't even try to run the stock lines on it, and they definitely work really well, so I recommend streamline. Moving to the rear shock, I just have the OEM shock set up as a dual rate, once again, by Rocket Ron, and it has a Hess linkage, which I was told was supposed to reduce the rear ride height by 1 inch, but hopefully you guys can get a good look on the link. The Hess linkage was originally designed by GT Thunder. I want to say Hess bought the rights to it, and they are the distributor for it, so I bought that directly from Hess. The rear end on this is totally different as well. It's got the bottoming resistance that I want, but it's still plush. It rides smooth. I've had some very hard cases where I could have totally quad bucked with the stock setup, and it's eaten some of these hard hits really well, which gives me more confidence as a rider. I feel safer. Speeds might be higher, but it rides even better and safer than it was when speeds were lower with the stock setup. It's super priceless to do the shock work and to get this thing set up in a more balanced manner. They are top heavy and a bit tippy and don't handle the best. I mean, as with anything, you get used to riding it. You can ride a stock Raptor really well. They're still comfortable, but once you start pushing the limits of things, you can easily exceed the limits on the Raptor, and getting a good shock foundation done to it is pretty key to unleashing its full potential. And since we're on the handling topic, this does have a Lonestar adjustable rear axle to help match the width on the front. I've not measured from outside to the outside of the tires on this, but it's pretty close. I want to say it might stick out a little further, so it's probably about 50 inches wide in the rear, but definitely love the added width. This thing does not come up on two wheels really at all anymore, and it makes it really safe to ride. Now we should talk about what I think is the most important part on essentially any sport ATV that you could buy. Hard to see sometimes, but there's the Precision Elite Stabilizer. If you're not familiar with stabilizers, it's essentially a damping unit that hooks onto your steering stem. So you've got a connecting arm right here. This has got fluid in it, and there's, like, I want to say some channels that the fluid goes through when you turn the bars back and forth. So you have two little adjustment wheels up here that help you dial in your settings. They give you a bunch of different recommendations, which I've actually wanted to play with more, so maybe I'll get the time this fall to play with the adjustability of the stabilizer and dial it in a little bit more. But this is a very, very priceless product. Essentially with this thing, you can have a super hard one-tire impact and the bars will not get ripped out of your hands. I mean, it's going to take something extremely violent to have the bars turn on you, which can cause a lot of accidents with quads. They also help a ton if you're riding through gnarly cross chop at the dunes. It just really keeps the fatigue levels way down. And I also don't want to mislead you and think that with that you're just invincible and you can go do anything. But as long as you're riding within your means, that thing could totally save you, because even the best riders are going to make a mistake or have an unforeseen obstacle that they could hit eventually. And just the fatigue savings alone make that so worth it. I know they're expensive, but they are 100% worth it. Go online and try to find a bad review on a precision stabilizer. You will not find one. And if I wanted to sell that right now, I'm pretty sure you can sell a used one for $400 to $500. And also one more bonus feature is after they've ran a longer lifespan, you can send it back to Precision and they'll do a full rebuild and send it back to you. It'll pretty much be good as new. So that covers most of the stuff in the front end here. If we go up to the handlebars, in combination to the stabilizer, I have their anti-vibe clamps. If you haven't seen these are probably the best bang for your buck anti-vibe clamp you can get on the market. Sorry, it's a little dusty under here. Hard to show, but these do absorb impact. Once again, a product that really helps save your stamina and reduce fatigue when you're riding. These will really keep you from getting beat up. I've had these on here for quite a while, and I really enjoy the smoothness that all of this stuff in combination provides when I'm riding. And in case you're wondering, this is actually a Precision Racing stem that they sent me. I can't remember, I want to say it's a +0 stem, because I liked always having the bars a little lower on this machine. I am 5'10". I've got Pro Taper contour bars in the ATV mid-bend, and the whole idea was to keep everything a bit lower so I can stand over the quad more. I like to feel like I have more control when things are a little lower, whereas the stock setup is kind of like a ape hanger setup on a motorcycle. Those bars are pretty aggressively bent, so Moving through more of the bars, we have, of course, an Rossier original throttle on here. It's not a factory throttle. The factory throttle has a lifetime warranty and comes with more locking screws on a throttle shaft. You have these set screws on the back, and then you adjust the height up and down, as well as the placement on the throttle shaft. There's a little stopper that could prevent this housing from falling off, but if you have never seen what an Rossier adjustable throttle can do, you have on-the-fly adjustability. There's 3 preset stops, so you can push this a lot further away from you if you have a less experienced rider on here and you don't want them to have access to all that power. They're not accidentally flooring it. If your thumb is getting sore on long rides, then you can adjust it there and move it just to give yourself a break. They also have a bit of a softer push than a stock throttle. He's got nice needle bearings on the throttle shaft. It's just a very quality-focused product. Some people complain about the price of these, but they are a very durable product. Rossier just screams quality. It's the same thing with its SPC clamps. Lots of R&D, lots of testing in his products. We're very proud to rep Rossier and sell his products. As far as grips go, I run ODI lock-ons. These are the Rogue grip. They have a couple different grip patterns. Let's see if I can show you. There's just a little screw that you tighten here, a little Allen-headed screw on both ends. Never have one fully twist, never have one come off. There's no grip glue holding these on. If you have to do a bar swap, you just loosen them up, pop them off, pop on the new ones. And the last couple things in the handlebars here, we have a Trail Tech temperature gauge, which is run on the radiator line right there. And we have the control housing that I just recently put on, which is from Restoquad. There's an auxiliary jack on the front underneath the plastic for me to run a light bar, which would turn on with that button. And then I have a horn. I'll turn on the key. And blinkers. And those are on. I just put up a video installing this. But before we dive into the Restoquad lights, one thing I could touch on is the Graphix Kit for this. This was done by Spider Graphics. I had it installed locally. I really like the Graphix Kit on this machine. I'm really having a hard time if I was to update it and change it. This is a very, I guess you could say, OG four-wheeler for my channel now. A lot of content has been made with this thing. It's very recognizable. Spider Graphics did a great job putting the kit together. We did a couple revisions when it came to designing it, and they really crushed it. So if you need a Graphix kit, I definitely recommend Spider Graphics. Now I would like to move on to protection. This has quite a few poly protective parts on it, but I'd say a must purchase part for any quad owner is a nice quality case saver. This is a DRW Case Saver. They're made down in Texas. The owner is a super cool dude. And then another front running company that makes great products is Glan Innovations out of Iowa. They make really nice poly savers as well. If you go with a cheap aluminum case saver, you could easily still break off the mounting tabs that the case saver goes on if you have a chain break. Essentially, this product in combination with the chain slide in the rear is designed to spit the chain out and not cause any binding. DRW does make a full line of protective products for a ton of machines. They make a case saver for like almost every single quad that's ever been made, I want to say. But I've got their poly Sprocket Guard right here, and these are not very expensive. You can replace those out annually if you ride a lot of rough terrain. And I have their poly Rotor Guard back here, which is a bit of a bulky unit when it comes to a rotor guard, but I've been pretty happy with it. I've been running them on pretty much all the quads, just like a lot of these products. There is a swing arm skid plate underneath here. It doesn't cover the linkage. If you want linkage protection, you might have to go with like a GYTR full aluminum rear skid plate. I've seen those that'll cover the linkage. I've got the quad stood up here so you guys can see the underbody protection a little bit better. This is that Glan plate made by CRF. This has been on here for 5 years, almost 4 seasons. Some of this is from my ramp, but a lot of these are other like natural battle scars over the years. One other nice thing about the skid plate is it's got these nice metal inserts that the hardware goes into, and then this is all flush mounted. I also really like this big lip over the front. And here's a good look at the linkage as well as the DRW Swingarm protection. So you can tell here you do have pretty good coverage overall. Some people want this protected. In my 5 years of riding as of late, never had linkage impacted and damaged. So yeah, there's a good look at the underside of this thing. If you're going to do any protective stuff, case saver chain slide in combination, if you're going to do DRW or Glan, I want to say Glan makes a really nice chain slider as well. Definitely recommend a belly skid as a nice mandatory upgrade just to help, unless you just ride strictly sand dunes, which in that case you're spoiled and I'm jealous. The next thing I'd like to touch on would be kind of your simple bolt-ons. I have a set of Pro Armor Nerf bars on here without a heel guard. I wanted to keep the GYTR aluminum heel guard. I will say these have worn down quite a bit. I'm not the biggest fan of the stock pegs. I haven't had any issues with my feet coming off of them by any means, but having a wider peg and a longer peg is very nice when you're riding. So, that being said, if you're going to upgrade this, your two best options, in my opinion at the moment, will be to go with Wrath Racing or Factory 43. I want to say XFR makes a pretty solid set of Nerfs as well, and upgrading to those will get you a monster peg, which will come out quite a bit further. They're a little bit wider, and they're also sharper, which makes things a little safer. You've got a better foundation to stand on. You can just kind of have more adjustability within your stance, which is really priceless, and it's an upgrade I've wanted to do for a super long time. That's the plan for a future upgrade with this. And then I have a Pro Armor Bully Bumper, this is called. This thing has got a lot of battle scars from chasing people over the years, getting close-up cam footage of them. Nice upgrade, any bumper essentially. You just want good handholds. It's really priceless when you're on the trail. You got to pick something up. The stock bumpers on these things, especially the GYTR ones, got like that V. Like there is no comfortable way to pick the machine up. So cheap upgrade that does change the cosmetic look a little bit. That was also brushed aluminum and it was powder coated black. So backing up, for tires, we have Obor Advents on here. They are the stock tire sizes. I got 21s in the front, 20s in the rear. Really happy with these tires. They're pretty dang durable. They got, you know, not a super firm compound, but they're kind of in the middle, I want to say. I mean, you can tell they've got some good squish to them, but I love how they look, something different. I've also ran the ITP GNCC tires. They're a little narrower overall. Had really good performance with those tires, but I do like the cosmetic look of these, if that makes any sense. Let's see, we've got a couple other little cosmetic parts on here. Very, very basic. Alba gas cap. Been on here for a long time, just cosmetic upgrade in my opinion. Got an Alba aluminum grab bar. A lot of the anodized stuff on here has actually started to fade. It's been on here so long. You may have noticed I got floppy fenders. This Alba grab bar came with some very cheap fender brackets, and that is another thing that I would like to have fabricated potentially before the dunes. Hopefully they've updated them since then, so can't say I recommend that product. But for picking up the quad and changing the color, I like simple. There's some companies that make like really nice wider grab bars for the rear. I didn't really like how those cover up the exhaust almost, or they kind of stick out. So personal preference, very cosmetic. This has a street legal kit from Restoquad on it. That was the most recent upgrade that was done. I have a full video installing that. It was a recent upload to this one. And then it came with the horn, the control mounts, and we glanced at the horn earlier. And then also these awesome headlights. Man, do those not look like they should just be on from the factory? They should just be OEM lights. So you've got your daytime running lights, and then I've got the high and the low beams on here. High beam doesn't have a whole lot of extra range to it, but the low beams are super impressive. I mean, for just a bolt-on plug-and-play headlight kit, much, much better cosmetically and functionality-wise over stock. And another nice thing is with the daytime running lights, I'm way less apt to keep my key on because I always use my kill switch and I end up leaving my keys on my stuff. I think we've covered everything that's been changed on this quad. Very simple cosmetic but popular upgrade is warning plate delete kit. These were brushed aluminum, had them powder coated black. They've been on there pretty much since I got the quad. I cannot stand how warning labels look. It's an easy way to get rid of them, as well as kind of filling in the void here that you get from the recessed plastic from the warning labels. And then the last and most important thing that is on this quad, hold on, we got to get in the light, is the finale, the red anodized valve stem caps. That is the best way to add an extra horsepower to your quad. All right, I'll tone it down a little bit. Future parts. What is left for this quad, man? Some beadlocks with some red rings would really add some pop. Getting a nice gripper seat on there would be awesome. Definitely excited to get a seat cover to maybe help the graphics blend a little bit more. A lot of the parts on here I've put on here just because I liked how they look or sound. Don't take all these parts and brands as like the ones you have to get, aside from like maybe like your precision stabilizer. They kind of have that market cornered. There's a lot of great exhaust companies, bumper companies, Nerf bar companies, just anything you're looking at. There's lots of options. Do some research, read some forums, read some groups on Facebook, and find what you like the most. And if you want ultimate performance, you can go that route. If you want cosmetics, you can go that route too. So I think we're gonna maybe take this thing for a bit of a cruise. roads for a bit. There's a small town as the crow flies like 6 or 7 miles that way. I can play with my blinker on the street a little bit on the way back. I think there's like 2 whole turns I could use my blinker on. I was actually just noticing, and hopefully this isn't as big a deal as I'm thinking it is, glancing back, my right tire looks good and my left tire is wobbly. I think that rim is jacked up. I have not had the quad on jack stands to see if the axle could be bent. There's a lot of movement going on there though. I'm gonna stop up here and make sure there's no lug nuts missing from that wheel. Lug nuts are tight. If I pull this backwards, the axle looks straight. A small bend could have a lot of movement at the end. Going slow, you don't notice it at all. Alright. Well, the wheel shouldn't fall off, so let's take a left. Oh, blinker. Blinker on. Blinker off. Beautiful evening, man. It was super hot. And now the extended forecast is in the mid-70s for as far as we can see. This is a super good example as to one reason why the Raptor is an awesome all-around machine. That now that I've got that 15-tooth front sprocket on, which I'm not the biggest fan of at times, but in this instance it's absolutely awesome because I'm half throttle in 5th gear, not even half throttle, quarter throttle in 5th gear, probably about 50 miles an hour, maybe a little less. The machine's barely working at all, running 160 degrees. This thing can just do this all day, man. You know, the 450 just does not want to be at a steady RPM unless it's a high RPM. Man, this thing would be coasting really nice on the pavement right now, but that thing is wobbling so hard. We may actually stop at my buddy Bruce's farm. He might have a jack stand I can put the stuff on or block it up real quick. We can idle it in gear and see if the axle's bent or if this thing's bent. Blinker on. This is very official. Turn number 2. Goes away. It is really loud though with the knobbies, which was one thing I was told, that the street tires are a lot quieter. So I definitely have looked into some street tires, but there's way more options for the European customer base since they can fully street legal, and there's a lot more of a road scene over there than there is over here, obviously. I'm pushing a headwind now. You definitely see the benefit of a visorless helmet. Stabilizer even helps in this instance too. I mean, it's a nice smooth surface, but it takes vibrations and stuff out of the handlebars. Just keeps you tracking straight, no sudden movements. And that is Bruce's farm. Where's Bruce, Daisy? He needs to help me identify a bent rim or a bent axle. Wow. Can't believe that, man. That's a bummer. No, it'll have to be replaced.
my Lonestar rear axle is bent. Looks like we may be getting a Dominator axle because I don't think you're supposed to be able to bend those. You know, I've done some decent sized jumps with it. Maybe I've landed crooked, but just kind of shocked that I bent this axle.
All right, I am all back with the Raptor. It was fun to do the walk around on this machine today. Definitely a little bummed about the bent axle, but I'm glad I discovered it now. So there's some perks to riding on hard surfaces now and then. If you guys have any extra questions on the Raptor or anything, any parts that I've purchased, just feel free to leave them down below. And of course, I wanted to give an extra big thank you to everybody that's been supporting us on our website by buying parts and merch. Hopefully we can get some new merch added before our Oklahoma trip. And just another reminder, the Oklahoma trip dates are October 12th through October 14th, which is the same weekend as the Sand Wars drag racing event. So I hope to see some of you guys there. And as always, I hope you guys have a good one, ride safe, and we'll catch you on the next one.